Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a topic that's a little bit different from the things I normally cover. Generally, when I cover something that's not the games that are spotlighted on my channel, it's because I believe it's an important topic of conversation that is it can be either detrimental or beneficial to society with regards to how we view things and how society functions and how to think about things properly. I'm a big advocate of critical thinking, and the catalyst of this topic obviously is stemming from the Hassan guy who made the statement that streaming is much more socially draining than a quote unquote real job. The very idea of ostracizing streaming from real job, I want to touch up on that because I think that's hilarious, especially coming from a streamer, and then the world obviously having their take on it. But the reason I want to talk about this is because it's fascinating to me how both sides are undermining the other side's occupation just to have a dick swinging contest with regards to who struggles the most and who has the most negatives to their job. Like, it's basically a pity party for oneself, and you don't really care about logic or rationality with regards to the spectrum of this topic of conversation. You just want people to tell you, yeah, man, you've got it hard. I understand. And so I want to talk about this. The first thing I want to talk about is I think it's a good form of mediocrity to say that streaming isn't a real job. Let me preface this by saying I'm incredibly new to streaming. I am somebody who has worked a real job. For 5 years, I was a health and fitness professional at Lifetime Fitness, which is one of the most luxurious and high maintenance gyms in the United States, hands down, potentially the world. But I was there and I was 100% commission, and you did not get paid if you didn't get clients, which means you had to approach clients and sell yourself to them, right? And then you gave them complimentary sessions. And then if they didn't buy, they didn't buy. You did that rinse and repeat. It was actually a very socially demanding job as well. But I'm explaining that context to let you know there's no bias here with regards to the point I'm about to make for streaming. It's purely off of an objective standpoint with logics and facts. But to say streaming isn't a real job is factually wrong. One, because anything out there that brings in a form of income and is legal is quite literally a job by definition. So that on that end, it's ridiculous to say that. On the other end, it's disrespectful and belittling to every streamer out there to say it's not a real job. You're basically looking down on them and saying that what they do isn't respectable, which to me shouts that a couple of things. One, you're either a boomer who refuses to acknowledge the way that the world has begun to progress. You refuse to acknowledge the technology advancement and the infrastructure of how our society functions with that technology advancement, right? Back in the day, you can only consume media, which is news, television, and radio as your forms of, consuming information and learning about different point of views and perspectives. These were the only outlets you could go to achieve that. Now we have streaming as another outlet, which actually takes away from the overall political control and power of how you receive information. You now have more of a resource to obtain information with not just agendas stemming from government and media outlets. You can now take that information from other people and build communities with like-minded individuals or people who have different perspectives, different facets on different topics of conversation. This is an overall net positive when you compare to how we used to receive information, which was so much easier to control the narrative from the government's point of view or from the media's point of view. So it's an overall positive that streaming exists today. And it's a large degree of influence on the younger audiences, which eventually end up running the society. They're like the driving force of society, right? It's a large degree of influence. It's a way for you to understand perspectives on many different topics. To look down on that and disrespect that. Again, I think it's a form of mediocrity. But on the other end of the spectrum, I can also understand your concerns with the negative part of streaming, which there are pros and cons to all fields out there. And one of the negatives of streaming is the people who have no awareness with regards to how strong their influence is and how it affects the younger generation to think and act. and they do a bunch of dumb shit and say a bunch of dumb stuff on the platform, which can cause a ripple effect of people, you know, basically just overall not even contributing to society in a positive manner. I do acknowledge that, but I cannot sit here and say that streaming isn't a real job. That's like disrespectful. Go and work for corporate America and continue perpetuating this the cycle of putting billions of dollars inside of these corporate entities' pockets instead of building a business for yourself and advocating that you don't need corporate America to be successful. You know, this is a very tough conversation for me to talk about because there's so many micro facets that go into this conversation. Like the other one is to look down on streaming is to like enable the workforce 9-to-5 cycle to constantly line the pockets of the people at the top. And the woke before the woke today was be aware of the people at the top milking you dry for money, spending up all your energy in that workforce so you don't go home and have the energy to work on your own dreams and aspirations, and they just continue getting richer. Like you're enabling that and disabling people to want and go and do this job because you look down on it. And it's a job that unironically rebels against that very, society of, go work your 8 to 12 hours a day for somebody else. Like are you really going to perpetuate that? Because it's really not the only way a society can function, and it shouldn't be the only way a society can function. And that's why I'm talking about this today. It's so much more imperative. It's so much more significant than just the surface level of some streamer getting on the internet and saying that his job's more socially demanding than a real job, which, by the way, I would like to say that is an incredibly idiotic and out of touch perspective that I would like to at least just give him the benefit of the doubt. Speaking at length on stream for long periods of time, it's not an easy thing to do, and it's very easy to slip up and say shit that doesn't necessarily convey the way your brain is thinking it. Now, I am trying to give the guy I don't know this dude at all. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt because I know me personally, my brain functions way better off camera, off stream, talking to myself right now like I'm doing than it does on stream, trying to like pay attention to chat with my ADHD, pay attention to what it is I'm doing, like playing the game or whatever, while also conveying what's going on in my brain. And sometimes I say things that like could definitely have been conveyed in a much more articulate manner if only I wasn't distracted and overstimulated by all these different things. Case in point, it is much harder than it looks to do these things and operate on that level with thousands of people. So I want to ensure that what dude said was dumb as shit. There's no way you have the right to talk about how your job is more socially draining than all these other jobs that you yourself haven't done. It's just, again, you're not qualified to speak on it. I want to give two different examples. One, I don't go in a forensic scientist lab and try to tell them how easy their job is when I have no knowledge of forensic scientists. I mean, I don't go in there and try and do that, nor will I tell them that my job's easier or harder. I can only share my own experience. And regardless of what you think of it, I know from personal stance how difficult, how frustrating, and what the pros and cons are of it because I have my own personal experience. That's all you need to do. You don't need to compare. You just need to say, hey, based off of what I do and how it affects me, this is what I can tell you. You go wrong as soon as you say, oh, it's more difficult than what you do. Trust me, I know. Like, it's just the worst way to go about things. Now, getting back on the topic, the other thing I want to bring up to you is why you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Why you shouldn't say streaming's easier. How hard can it be? Well, one, I remember when I was 16 years old, I wanted to make some money for myself because, I grew up in a low income household and I wanted some money. It's that simple. But I was at the YMCA every single day after school, and I was thinking, how can I make some money for my age? And it's something that's easy. I want the easiest way to make money, something a 16-year-old would think about doing. And I walked by the aquatics department in the YMCA and saw that some dude was sitting on the stand as a lifeguard. And he was just, obviously getting paid. That was his job. And I was like, wow, that looks like the easiest job on planet Earth. Must be nice. I'm going to apply. I know how to swim. This should be easy money. Long story short, I got hired and was working 6-hour shifts 4 days a week. I didn't even last 1 week, because when I got on that stand and I realized that was the most mundane and boring job I've ever done to this day in my entire life. Sitting there, time almost came to a complete standstill and nothing was happening. There's not even eye candy. You're inside of this YMCA. It smells like ass. There's nothing really to do. Nobody's ever in danger or anything. You're just sitting up there, right? Every now and then you blow your whistle, but for the most part, nothing's happening. And I look at my watch and only 20 minutes has gone by and it feels like 3 hours. Yeah, I quit that job at the age of 16. It was horrible. But guess what? Before I did the job, I thought it was the easiest way to make money, and I thought it was a gold star plan. It looks easy. How hard could it be? It was horrible. Case in point, you don't judge a book by its cover without experiencing the contents of the book. And that's what people I've seen are doing with the streaming thing. You don't know, 90% of you don't actually know the struggles of a streamer who streams to thousands of people a day for, if he said 9 hours a day. And then I heard this other ridiculous argument of, well, he can just turn it off. He doesn't have to deal with it. You can just quit your job. You don't have to deal with that. Oh, wait, you got bills to pay. Guess what? An entrepreneur deals with the same shit. Yeah, I could just turn it off, but I am in charge of when I get paid. If I don't work, I don't get paid. And the thing about an entrepreneur is it's uncertain. Your success, the longevity of your career, the tenure of it, you don't know how long it's gonna last, and you never actually feel like no matter what I do, my career's set in stone. There's always that monkey on the back of, is my business going to continue to grow? Is it gonna plateau? Is it gonna fail? It's the gift that keeps on giving, ultimately. And to sit there and try and say like this guy's got it easy or whatever the case may be, why doesn't he just turn it off? Yeah, he can turn it off. But guess what? In entrepreneurship, you turn it off, that's a risk of your business that you've been flowering. That flower that you've been watering for years upon years, there's a risk of that shit dying. And if it dies and you've been working on it for a decade, everything you put blood, sweat, and tears for is now gone because you chose to let up. And I heard this take from another entrepreneur, and it's like, for an entrepreneur to say something as dumb as just turn it off and not understand the struggles that come with entrepreneurship, the consistency and perseverance and the uncertainty and the high risk, you should know better. Yes, it's true that you can just turn it off, but you should also know better that you can't just turn it off in entrepreneurship. It is a constant fucking grind, and the more you succeed, the more you're in fear of losing all of that. It's like, I'm not kidding you. I can go on and on about how crazy this entire topic of discussion has been from so many different angles. It's just a bunch of fucking ignorance. And I'm just like, holy hell, this is crazy to me. Entrepreneurship should always be respected upon because it's a person who's taken a chance for themselves, who believes in themselves when nobody else does. And you're hoping that all of that pays off, for better or for worse, though. You're willing to go to the grave trying to pursue that dream, whereas most people, they take the safe route, the 9 to 5. You don't have to worry about carving a path. The path is laid out for you. There's structure there. You know when you're going to get paid. There's no uncertainty in that manner at all. Now, are there also negatives? You damn right there is. Just like there's negatives in entrepreneurship. I don't know if I'm going to succeed. You know what I mean? For 4 years, fellas, I was making less than $800 a month. For 4 fucking years. Most people don't even last that long for a year or two. They quit, they go. I stayed. On this 5th year, I can tell you, no doubt about it, I'm making over 6 figures, no problem. But it took me 4 years to get to this point while everyone doubted me, no one believed in me. And I had to continue telling myself through all kinds of mental battles, don't give up, keep on with it, right? So what happens now when I start succeeding? Start bearing the fruits of my labor and doing the things necessary to succeed. And eventually I start making 7 figures. Am I supposed to be somebody that's now all of a sudden privileged? Am I supposed to be somebody that's now all of a sudden entitled? When I did all the steps that most people don't have the balls to do or courage to do because they're too afraid of failure. I did all those steps to get to where I was, but you guys glossed all over that and you only look at, oh, he's rich now. What about all the shit I did to get here though? I mean, I'm gonna like digress. I just want people to be understanding of how multifaceted this topic of discussion really is. It's never black and white. There's a lot of fucking gray in there. There's a lot of color in there too. And there's a lot of in between the lines that nobody ever considers. They just look at it from a surface level and draw a conclusion that is just, again, it's a high form of mediocrity. But you comment down below. Those are all my takes on the matter. Yeah, peace, love, and happiness.